Hare Krishna, Namaste. The question is, what is the level of enjoyment in Brahma Loka? What kinds of enjoyments are present in Brahma Loka? Is the enjoyment in Brahma Loka related to spiritual bliss or something else? How to visualize this enjoyment? We can always find answers to such questions in our scriptures, but we need to have a proper consciousness with complete faith in the scriptures to understand what it says. At the same time, some questions we may not be having answers. If everything can be answered with an mundane example, then we are equating God to our level where we can easily understand Him. But that is not possible. The Lord is unlimited. Therefore, with our limited knowledge, it's so very difficult to understand the glories of the Lord. Likewise, with our limited knowledge, intelligence, we cannot understand everything that is said in the scriptures. Sometimes things may appear contradictory, but they are not. It is only due to our limitation, that's all. With that short intro, now let's see the answer for these questions. We will be taking a different approach to answer these questions. We will not be addressing the details of what has been asked here. For example, what kinds of enjoyment are present in Brahma Loka. We are not going to say there were restaurants, there were gardens, there were theaters, amusement parks, the beauty of man and woman. Rather getting into such details to describe the types of enjoyment that one get in these higher planets, we will focus on the principle. Such level of details are also not available much for us. We can know to some extent about Swargaloka. That is also very little. So what we will present here is the principle behind all the enjoyments, rather than focusing on the objects that brings enjoyment for one in those planets. We are going to focus on the outcome of enjoyment through those objects, and that outcome is called Ananda, bliss. Whatever we try to do or wherever we try to go, the goal is to attain happiness. No one can deny this fact. For example, we leave our hometown, homeland, and migrate to another country. The goal is to have a better life, to have higher degree of happiness than what we had before. So the ultimate thing is, when we enjoy something, we get something out of it. That is called Ananda, bliss. If that bliss is not there, then we will not do anything. We will not move forward to do any activities. There is a famous saying, Prayojanam anudishya na mandopi pravartate. That is, even a dull-headed person will not endeavor to do any activity unless he has an idea of getting some benefits out of his activity. Then what to speak about those who are intelligent? By the way, this is also true for spiritualists, one who is practicing spirituality. Even they are not going to do any activity if there is no benefit out of it. And this is 100% true. So in this audio clip, the response to the question is focused on that happiness one gets, that level of happiness one gets, rather than focusing on the details of what type of food they eat in Brahma Loka, what flowers are present, what types of trees are there, the fragrance, dresses that they wear, their lifestyle, etc. That is not what we will be focusing here. All this thing leads to one thing called Anandam. So what we are going to see is the level of Anandam that they get in that Loka. The reason that we are asking this question is because we want to compare from what we get here in this world to there in that world. And also this helps for one to decide whether they want to go to that loka or not. We don't want to come to another country if that country doesn't offer better life for us than the country that we are living. So we try to do all research, study about that country that we are interested in before we start moving into that country. It is easy for us within this world to measure the lifestyle from one country to another country. We have all the statistics. We can compare the lifestyle between two countries or any countries for that matter and pick the richest country and try to migrate if we want, or pick that particular country which is of our taste and move to that country. But that is possible within this earth planet. For us to measure the bliss of the Brahma Loka or any higher planet above the earth planet, we need to have some statistics, some measuring scale. Without that measuring scale, we cannot find the level of happiness in the higher planets. And the scale to measure that must also be accessible to us, meaning we cannot get a measuring tool which we are not used to. We have to be familiar with the measuring scale. With that measuring scale, then we measure the happiness in the Brahma Loka. That means we need to know what makes the human happy or blissful in this world. When we have that information, then with that information, keeping that as a measuring scale, we can measure the happiness of higher planets. Because we can only measure things of what we know already. And with the help of that measuring scale, we will gradually raise our level to understand the anandam of one who wants to attain a particular planet, in this case Brahma Loka. Now comes the question where to buy that measuring scale. We don't need to buy. It is all provided to us. Taittiriya Upanishad gracefully gives us the measuring scale. First, it level sets the unit of Manushyanandam, the happiness or the bliss of human in this world. Yuva syad sadhu yuva dhyayakah asistah balishtah tasyayam prithvi sarva vittasya purnasyat sayeko manusha anandah. Before we can understand the meaning of this statement from Taittiriya Upanishad, let's discuss some basics here. When a child is given a toy, its face blossoms. When the student gets high marks, he becomes happy. When a young man or a girl find a suitable spouse, they feel they achieved the goal of their life. When a man gets promotion in his job, he becomes uncontrollable. When the couple gets their first child, they are in bliss. When the family gets a mansion house, they feel they made a great achievement in their life. When a man gets a jackpot, a treasure in his backyard, his joy is uncontrollable. But all these happiness doesn't stay longer. As we move on with our life, our old happiness doesn't give us joy anymore because we want to obtain something new. We are looking for new happiness, new joy. The grown-up girl doesn't play with Barbie doll anymore. A grown-up boy doesn't wear a Spider-Man outfit to a party or to his office. So we are trying to find happiness from different sources. It is very hard for us to find a single source of happiness which lasts for lifetime. Further, we must know that no man's cup of happiness is full. Every one of us are always wanting more and more and more happiness. Therefore, the cup that we hold can never become full. And also the design of this world is in such a way that our cup is always not filled to the top. If a man is endowed with good health, he lacks money. If a man has good job, gets good money, he has a bad supervisor. A man may be very intelligent but doesn't know how to express it. A man may be a good speaker but doesn't have proper knowledge. A man may have everything in his life but the spouse doesn't cooperate. Many may be rich but lacks moral. A man may be righteous but may be in poverty. I'm saying man here, but kindly apply the same to women as well. So now assume that the happiness, the joy, the bliss that one gets is for longer period of time. This is going to be our starting point to measure the happiness of Manushyanandam, as per Taittiriya Upanishad. As the Upanishad said, Yuva syad sadhu yuvadhyayakaha ashisto balishtaha tasyeyam prithivi sarvavittasya purna syat sayeko manusha anandaha. Here it measures the Manushyanandam. If one is of youth, young age, forever, well-natured, very intelligent than anyone else, very wealthy than anyone else, free of any diseases, doesn't need to wear glasses, doesn't need to color his hair, doesn't need to remove the wrinkles around his eyes, doesn't need to take any tablets to keep oneself young. He can eat anything and everything and still digest. If that man has a strong body with strong will, he has all things that one can think of for one's enjoyment. If that person has everything just for his enjoyment, he is the center of attraction. No one to control him. He is the controller. That person has the control of the entire earth planet. He is so famous, has many followers. Everyone praises him. There is not one single person against him. Not only that, if the whole earth planet were to be filled with gold and diamonds, and that wealth were all his, if he were the emperor of the entire world, all this together is not a different person. That one person who has all these things that we just mentioned, then that would be the Manushyanandam of one unit. Of course, we know Manushya Buddhi. Even if one is given such thing, he will still look for more. As there is a saying, the world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. So this is what the Upanishad says, Teye Satam Manushyanandaha. So this is going to be our measuring scale given by Taittiriya Upanishad. With this measuring scale, now we are going to gradually measure the planets and residents of those planets above us. After giving the measuring scale for Manushyananda, the Upanishad takes us to the next level, that is Manushya Gandharva Anandam. We already know the measure, that one unit of Manushyanandam. 100 times of that Manushyanandam is equal to 1 unit of Manushya Gandharvas, who are higher, superior being than human being. So 100 times of our Anandam is 1 unit of Manushya Gandharva Anandam. Sayeko Manushya Gandharvanam Anandaha. After Manushya Gandharva Anandam, then the Upanishad takes to the next level, higher level, which is Deva Gandharva Anandam, which is 100 times of Manushya Gandharva Anandam. Sayeko Devo Gandharvanam Anandaha. Teye Satam Deva Gandharvanam Anandaha. So 100 times happiness of human is 1 unit of happiness to Manushya Gandharvas, and 100 times of Manushya Gandharvas happiness or bliss is 1 unit of Deva Gandharvas. Now 100 times of Deva Gandharvas happiness is 1 unit of Pitru Anandam. Then higher than the Pitru Anandas is Karma Devas Ananda. They are 100 times than the happiness of Pitru Anandam. 100 times of Karma Deva Anandam is 1 unit of Anandam for the Devas above these Karma Devas. Then Upanishad measures the Anandam of Indra, who is the king of all the Devas. His Anandam is 100 times of those Deva Anandam which were previously mentioned. Then comes the Anandam of Brihaspati, who is the guru of all the Devatas, including Indra. 100 times of Indra's Anandam is 1 unit of Brihaspati's Anandam. And finally, Teye Satam Prajapati Ranandaha, Sayeko Brahmananandaha. 100 times of bliss of Brihaspati is 1 unit of Chaturmukha Brahma's Anandam. So we can see here that 1 bliss of each being is 100 times greater than the one preceding. And this is what the Upanishad says. Sayeko Manushyanandaha Te Satam Manushyanandaha Sayeko Manusya Gandharvanamanandaha Te Sata Manusya Gandharvanamanandaha Sayeko Deva Gandharvanamanandaha Te Satam Deva Gandharvanamanandaha Sayeko Devanamanandaha Te Satam Devanamanandaha. And it goes on up to the point of Chaturmukha Brahma, and finally after that it tries to measure the bliss of Brahman, the absolute truth. The Anandam is one of the qualities of the Lord. Like the Lord has unlimited auspicious qualities, it is one of it. With the same measuring scale, it tries to measure the Anandam of that absolute truth. But it says, Eto vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha, which means the words coming from one's mind cannot simply measure or describe the Anandam of that absolute truth. It is mission impossible. Therefore, the Upanishad returns unsuccessfully, unable to measure the Anandam of the Supreme Lord. At least, Taittiriya Upanishad just took us sequentially from Manushya to Manushya Gandharva, Manushya Gandharva to Pitrus, Pitrus to Deva Gandharva, Deva Gandharva to Karma Devas, Karma Devas to other Devas, and then Indra, and then Brihaspati, and Prajapati, Chaturmukha Brahma. Whereas Sri Alavandar, who is also famously known as Yamunacharya, in his Stotra Ratnam, he says something very interesting. He goes one step further with the measuring scale that's given by Taittiriya Upanishad. Swami Alavandar says, Upari upari abja bhuvopya purushan prakalpyate ye shatamithyanukramat girastvadaikaika guna vidipsaya sadasisa nodyamato sirate. Now let's see the meaning of this. Remember, we measure the happiness of Brahma, that is 100 times that of the previous one, which is Brihaspati. After measuring that bliss, the Anandam of Brahma, bring that Brahma down to the stage of Manushya and start measuring again. Go to the top of Brahma's position again. When you get that Brahma, bring that Brahma again to the stage or level of Manushya with the same level of happiness that he has obtained. Now start measuring again 100 times of each and go to the position of that Brahma. Bring that Brahma back to the position of Manushya and start measuring again. Keep repeating this as many times as you have strength. Then even with the final number that you get, still one will not be able to measure the Anandam of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Please understand, this Anandam is just one of unlimited qualities of the Lord. If we start measuring each one of the qualities, we end up in the same position. We cannot measure. Each of Lord's qualities are immeasurable and the qualities are unlimited. We cannot count. So here we are just talking about one of such qualities called Anandam. Though we have not answered the question directly by providing the details of objects that present there for our enjoyment, hopefully this helps to understand the level of happiness that one gets in these different planets compared to the happiness or bliss we get as Manushya. in this earthly planet. Therefore, this also answers the question why we don't want to settle down in any of these lower planets. One important point to also understand, just because we go to that particular loka, it doesn't mean that we get the same level of bliss of the preceding deity of that planet. For example, if we reach Indra Loka, we don't get the same level of bliss that Indra has. We will get something, a piece of bliss thrown to us like a bread piece is thrown to a street dog. The Devatas are never happy to share their happiness with us. They always try to find means to throw us out of their planet. In fact, we have stories from Puranas narrating such things. Likewise, when we attain Brahma Loka, it is not that we will get the same level of happiness that Chaturmukha Brahma has. We may get a piece of it, a glimpse of it, but the beauty of attaining Krishna is totally different. When we attain Krishna, we get the same immeasurable Anandam, that of Krishna. Who in the world can do this? If we work for a company, for someone, they don't want us to become equal to them. Rather, they will always try to suppress us and by all means to keep us under their control. If we exhibit any talents or function better, others become envious and they try to find all means to cut us off. We have learnt in the Puranas, when someone does austerity, severe austerity, Indra becomes nervous. But when it comes to Krishna, he makes us equal to him. This is only possible by Krishna, and this shows his quality, his greatness. That is why it is said, his auspicious qualities, Kalyana Guna, are immeasurable and unlimited. So, when we attain Krishna, we attain the same bliss that of Krishna. We can't even imagine with our mind what that means. We can only experience that when we go back. And that bliss that we attain is for eternity. Whereas the bliss that we attain in different planets, including Brahma Loka, is not eternal, it's temporary. It may be for longer duration, but it has an end. But in the spiritual world, the Anandam that we get doesn't have an end date. In fact, there is no date at all in the spiritual world, because the time factor has no role in the spiritual world. So, one must decide. Krishna has given us free will to make decision where we want to go. One must plan their journey now. One must book their ticket now, when one has healthy mind and healthy body, and start preparing oneself to travel to that world where one goes never has to return to this world. For a devotee, this is the aspiration. The Anandam that one gets over there is equal to the Lord, and that Anandam that one receives differs from the Anandam that one gets within this material plane in any planets. When we go to the different planets within this universe, that Anandam is for the self. How much I derive happiness by seeing, by smelling, by touching, by tasting, by hearing, and so forth. But the bliss that one gets in the spiritual world, being with Krishna, is not for oneself, but for the pleasure of Krishna. When we see the smiling lotus face of the Lord, that joy, that bliss that we get is immeasurable. And this is what we all must aspire for, keep as a goal in our life and work towards that. One may say that why can't we attain the same bliss here in this world? Yes, one can by the purity of their consciousness and strong sadhana. But again, As long as we are in this world, we are bound by the time factor. No one can function 24 by 7, 365 days. In the spiritual world, there is no such things. One always continuously be engaged in the service of the Lord and be in Anandam, seeing the beautiful face, smiling face of the Lord. So, with the measuring scale given by Taittiriya Upanishad, we can decide where we want to be. Thank you. Hare Krishna.